But away from that, in our Kickstarter, we are picking up on improving CSOs operations in Uganda, that is civil society organizations. Now, the backbone of it is that as agents of change, civil society organizations can drive socio-economic change, and that is for society as well as impact Uganda's developmental path. They do complement government in the service delivery in multiple sectors, and we've had those conversations here on Morning at NTV in the sectors of health, in education. You get to look at energy, water and sanitation, to mention but a few. Now, in partnership with the civil society organizations, the Civil Society in Uganda Support Programme, funded by the European Union and German government, our SCO Convention has been organized, and so we do have some of the participants that have joined us to help us better understand the role of civil society organizations in improving the livelihoods of Uganda and extending some of these services closer to the most remote of people. I am joined by Emmanuel Wabwire, who's the Executive Director with Faraja Foundation. Good morning to you, Mr. Wabwire.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, and we are equally joined by Mr. Nicolas Gonze, who's the team leader for governance and social inclusion at the European Union Delegation in Uganda. Good morning to you, Mr. Gonze.
Good morning.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll start with the local player here, Faraja Africa. Mr. Wabwire, from your experience, I know that the civil society organizations have faced a little bit of turbulence, especially from government in the most recent years, about 3 to 4 years. And so we want to hear from you, in the midst of that turbulence, how have you been able to continue doing your work? What opportunities have still continued to come and challenges?
Thank you very much. Of course, I work with Faraja Foundation as a team leader. Faraja Foundation is a youth organization that focuses on increasing youth participation in key decision-making processes, but most importantly, skilling and livelihood, and also heritage. As we know, there's been continued shrinking spaces in terms of community engagement in development processes, especially when it comes to the planning, to the budgeting, and also in the democratic spaces. Personally, I do think that it's been quite a big misunderstanding that, of course, it would be a threat to maybe society or so. However, I have seen collective effort to make some adjustments. It's not all bad. There's been some collective efforts to make adjustments to see how best we can be able to understand, especially given the fact that we had initiatives such as the CASP, as you mentioned, that have been able to support NGOs in building resilience, sustainability in the area. Away from just that only element of government, the challenge with the regulations, there's also been a lot of challenge with the economy itself. After COVID, I can say as a youth leader and a youth CSO leader, I would say about 50% of the youth organizations either died or went into coma because there's still hope for revival. And that's because of the limited access to resources, shrinking budgets, both nationally and also internationally. Of course, international factors have a lot to play in it. However, the opportunity that has been actually availed was the support to build economic resilience within organizations to be able to develop social enterprises. As you know, the NGO Act now permits organizations to run income-generating activities so that local core funding for initiatives in the community are also more sustainable, not very much reliant or dependent on resources from outside.
That's very true.
And the other key thing that has been instrumental is also bringing participation of voices. Of course, for other elements, we've seen the citizen parliament and, of course, advocacy, dialogue, engagements. But most importantly, we've had the National Youth Parliament, of course, with the support from the European Union, GIZ and CASP itself, which brings voices from young people right from the villages, parishes, sub-counties, up to national level. But this is the key interesting factor, that these are creative spaces that are bringing existing state agencies, Youth, NYC, UNSA, those are youth councils and student councils, but also civil society, cultural groups or leaderships together to make the voices. So the opportunity is that civil society, in the shrinking budgets now that most funding had been pulled or reduced because of international factors, is that civil society is an opportunity to work with government to be able to build and develop the society.
That's true.
Because if there's no coordination in that, then government may not have enough resources to do that, nor the manpower to do that. But with collective effort, the development is mostly owned by the community and sustainable, because civil society is the community.
Speaking of collective efforts from the European Union, as an observer, but also on something that he has touched base on, there's the funder and then there's the funded. So I know that there's also been challenges, especially post-COVID-19, from the funders to be able to sustain civil society organizations they partner with here, especially financially, and resource-wise, to be able to extend their works to the needy people or the focal groups that they're looking at. What have been some of those point challenges, especially as far as funding and governance is concerned, on the side of the funders?
Well, on the side of the European Union, civil society is a very important partner. Globally, we support civil society. You know, in Europe, historically, civil society has been playing a key role in the socio-economic progress of Europe. So we support civil society up to that day in Europe, but we also support civil society in the country we partner with, including in Uganda. So we've been supporting civil society in Uganda for many years, and it was important for us to sustain this effort, in particular during the COVID time and after the COVID time, as all those organizations are struggling and are trying to recover from this difficult period. So in terms of financial support, our commitment has been very constant over the year. So that's why we even decrease, concretely we even decrease our funding to civil society organization. So we work with them, and like Emmanuel said, to build their capacity so they become more resilient in terms of financial terms also, but also in terms of internal capacities, internal governance, how they can better plan their work, how they can better work with the authorities, how can they better advocate for specific issues at local level, at national level, how can they work, how, for example, women's group can work with the Ministry of Education to review the education policy, how can they work with the accountability authorities or the authorities in charge of public procurement to make sure that accountability reinforced. So these are all kind of services and role that is key in the overall development of a country. And of course they work, like Emmanuel also said, they are really a bridge between different groups of people. Some of them are vulnerable groups, some of them can be marginalized group, and then the authorities. So they allow to have those groups to speak and to be part of development processes.
Okay, speaking of development, I know that there's a program, Civil Society in Uganda Support Programme, that is with the European Union in partnership with GIZ. Could you give us more enlightenment into this program and what its role, what other gaps it's intended to actually fill?
Okay, this is a very important program for us, and really this is what we call a Team Europe action. So it means this is the EU plus the member states. So in the case of CUSP, it's a program that is co-financed by the European Union and the government of Germany, and this is implemented by the German cooperation agency GIZ. And this program is really about supporting an enabling environment for the civil society organization, a more conducive environment for civil society organization. So the program will work both with civil society organization, but also with with the authorities at the national level, and then the authorities also at the local level. The first objective, this is about this enabling environment. The second objective is about how we can better or strengthen the participation of civil society organization in development processes, in policy making processes also, at national level and at district level. And then the third objective of this program is to reinforce the capacities of the civil society organization themselves, because they are also facing internal challenges when it comes, like we say, financial sustainability, but also when it comes to internal organization, also the fact that they need to comply with regulatory requirements. So we help them to strengthen their capacity to operate.
Okay, Mr. Wabwire, I know that with the support program, there's also an upcoming civil society in Uganda convention. Just give us an overview of that convention and what is it intended to actually achieve?
Just as it's stated in the 17th Sustainable Development Goal Agenda, building partnerships. One of the key things for the convention that is upcoming is to showcase that the civil society is a very powerful partner that would really love to work with the government and of course already with the community. And it will be bringing in different actors from the government, from the community, private sector and many other sectors, including the civil society itself. CASP itself happens to be run by a steering committee made of Ugandans, including young people, because I do represent young people on that committee. I'm 32 years old, making 33 at the end of the year. And one of the key things is that we do guide or decide where the funding should go more. What does this funding mean? I'll give you an example. Faraja Foundation in 2018 was more like a startup organization, because we had just been able to have served for about 4 years before that. We couldn't access funding, we didn't have governance structures, we didn't have a strategic direction, and these are things CASP came to support. We're able to have a board general assembly, we're able to have a strategic plan, M&E, and we're able to write our own proposals. And because of that, we're able to also strengthen our social enterprise. As is, we run our own social enterprise that generates income, that funds us. Even during COVID, that we're able to fund activities when everything else was not happening. So the convention is also going to be an opportunity to also maybe invite and welcome more other civil society members who need support to be able to grow. But most importantly, to also broker that cordial relationship with government so that we can be able to have sustainable development agenda developed together.
Mr. Gonze, so what are the intended take-homes and outcomes of this convention?
I think indeed what we are trying to be with CUSP and then what we are trying to do with this convention is bring different stakeholders together, and in particular civil society, but the government and then private sector, so that we can foster this collaboration and that we promote this idea that civil society is not working against the government, but civil society is working with the government. So the government, of course, has a role, civil society has a different role, but this is complementary. So this is important to, I think, to promote this narrative of this complementarity and how we can foster this partnership. And also another key stakeholders is the private sector, and it's also interesting to develop ties also between the civil society and then the private sector. So, but it's also about networking, about exchanging ideas, about there will be also different debates, and so we can reflect during those debates about opportunities and then issues, challenge faced by civil society organization, and then come up with a proposal or suggestion on how to address them.
Okay.
But again, this is a multi-stakeholder dialogue, and we are waiting. We are expecting about 250 participants, so it will be quite broad. And we were happy also to partner with the Nation Media Group.
All those being local participants?
Yes.
The 250?
Yes,
okay.
it's
right.
because CUSP is about supporting local CSOs.
Okay. All right. Mr. Wabwire, so we understand that it's next week.
Yes.
Could you give us more details? It could be people who need help from you, who has now become a professor in civil society organization, and be complementary to what government initiatives are. And so if someone wants to attend, how do they get to attend this convention?
The convention is on invite only. However, there's going to be an online participation, and of course they could be able to follow the deliberations online. But also, I think from what we had discussed and seen as a mode of enrollment as steering committee was that GIZ is open for applications. For those who want to join or get support from the CAST program, they can be able to simply write an email or make an appointment or even walk to GIZ. Okay. I think that's one of the approaches we used. And it's open to everybody. Okay. And it's not just only civil societies coming, there are also state actors, but most importantly youth council leaders, student council leaders, because they're also part of the entire process. Yes.
All right, that reminds me of the UN agenda, leaving no one behind. Yes. So having also the young people included in the decisions of the future, because it's their future that we are trying to build. So thank you so much, Mr. Gonze, and thank you so much, Mr. Wabwire. And of course, that convention is coming up next week, Thursday, the 8th. And so be sure to be part of the participatory team that will be online if an invitation has not been extended to you. But you can get to Nation Media Group, social media pages for more details in case you want to participate. They're going to be focusing on some of the areas such as enhancing NGOs' self-reliance and also social accountability for better service delivery. We cannot leave out the digital participation. It's very paramount because it's the way to go. And the contribution of CSOs to promoting human rights in Uganda, among other discussions that they will be having. So they're quite intriguing discussions. You want to be a part of those conversations. And so that marks the end of this conversation. We're going to be taking a short breather. We continue with more. Don't go away.